know me. Okay, no you don't, but you know who I am. I am Issa J, and right across from me, as always, it is
Liam Landry.
Alright, and yes, we are doing another episode of the Bare Bones Geeky podcast. This is not on Sunday like we've been doing it, it's on Saturday. Tomorrow, I felt like after we do our thing on our other channel, we just needed a break for Sundays and just relax, you know? And Liam here said it was completely okay and fine to do the podcast today, so that's what we decided to do.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who doesn't know, the Bare Bones Geeky podcast, we take a subject or let's say subject. We take a subject of something geeky, and then we fine tune it. We focus in on a specific point and talk about it that way. And it's going to be, this week, we said it was going to be about cartoons. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the three main cartoons, adult cartoons, that has the biggest following and the ones that we follow or followed. And then we're going to compare it to children's cartoons as well. And that's going to be our episode for today.
Yeah. And of course, also compare it to other adult cartoons
as well. Exactly.
See why these kind of stand out from the fold.
Versus why others just wither and die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, there are some that we will not be talking about because either we don't watch them or we just we didn't watch them enough to have an opinion on them.
Or couldn't just narrow it down because we're just trying to narrow it down to like three real pinnacle ones that also kind of offer some differences there too.
Exactly.
But it's some other ones that are very good as well, but it's just they're not really in this level and don't really stand out like the other ones, so we just had to narrow it down to three. So if one you like is not on the three we're talking about, you shouldn't be upset by that, you know.
Exactly. Because it probably will get brought up while we do the comparisons.
Yeah.
I know one that we both watched that we definitely will be talking about, and one that I've followed for a long time, just haven't been following since, that I'll talk about. But I'm going to let you come up with the third main one.
Yes.
Let's start with that one first. So,
okay, we're going to start with, I'm going to use this as Archer. I think Archer, it's a good standout one, just because of the very good comedy level. And there's also really good stuff with, say, the art design. It's not necessarily great animation, you can say, because they don't, they're very static. They don't move much. That's not the point, but they are all very well designed characters. And that actually stands out a lot because, for whatever reason, a lot of adult cartoons have the idea of looking crappy. You can, I think a good comparison is, I know a lot of people look down upon I don't even know if it came out yet, the Thundercats remake that they were doing.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of people were giving them crap over that, and it's like, yeah, it still looks it actually looks good. I think people were kind of wrong for judging it like that because it was just going for a different style. It definitely didn't look bad. And it looked
kind of in the same vein as the newest Ninja Turtles. How that looks completely different than any of the other ones we've ever had.
Yeah.
To the point where everyone's like, "Oh, it looks so bad," but the animation still has a good flow to it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely going for like a younger comical vibe compared to 80s action show. So it's like, I mean, if you want to compare, you could say, in that same way, you can say Adventure Time looks cruddy compared to Thundercats or G.I. Joe or Batman the Animated Series. And it's like, they're going for different things. If you change the styles of those shows around, it just wouldn't work. So I like to just kind of point out that's unfair. But even in that, adult cartoons still just kind of look cruddy. And it's almost like their design is to look cruddy. And there's very few that I think really, really actually look good overall, and even look good for a stylized thing. And Archer is one of those, so it has some credits with that. And it's just a really good show of awful people, and it has a good way of keeping each season fresh, which I think is really great. And another reason to talk about it as well is because it's actually starting back up again. I think this new season has come out yet. Has come out. I haven't seen it yet. I'll probably catch it when it goes on to Netflix.
Yeah.
I know it's not on there yet. But that's also kind of another reason, because we also didn't want to talk about shows that aren't on there and aren't, playing anymore. So if it wasn't having a new season, we probably wouldn't have it. But it does make characters that are comically terrible, but also realistic in a sense, and also almost likable in that way. So it's very interesting. It's something difficult to put down. When I started watching it, it was after the original run was over with, and I watched it on Netflix. But it was in the span of maybe just a few weeks I watched the whole 5 seasons. And it's pretty big seasons. It's not like a 10-episode season. I don't remember the exact amount, but it's a pretty good amount of shows per season. And I'm also not a binge watcher. I don't really like to just...
Yeah.
Some things I will, but I'm a guy who likes to spread out things. I don't just want to watch the same thing.
I'm the same way as well. Like I'll might binge 3 to 4 episodes or something, and I'll take a break for a week or two, and then do that again, just to get the full effect of it all, and let it sit in.
Yeah, and sometimes I just do 2 episodes, or even maybe 1 episode a night type of thing as it goes. So it's like, so it was a lot different for Orchard, and it just kind of came out of nowhere, and it just, for me, came out of nowhere and watch. And of course, even going beyond just our opinions, it has won was with the Emmys. That's one for TV for best animated series before. So it's it's a critically acclaimed show. So it's not really surprised to bring it up here. But like I said, it does a lot different. If I can start making comparisons now, if we can say compare it to a Family Guy of sorts, where it's, especially now, it's based around the concept of a bunch of awful characters. I would say that the Archer show still has still likable characters, and that's kind of the interesting point. And so there's there is Archer himself, who is likable to a degree because he's charismatic, and of course, I forget the voice actor who does it, but he's a great voice actor. Also does Bob's from Bob's Burgers.
Okay, yeah.
But great voice actor, and it's a lot of, and like I said, it's a lot of great characters. It's real difficult to just kind of talk about it and say, oh, it's great characters that are entertaining to watch and put in funny scenarios with the whole, amount of just funny running jokes, because that's one of the things they do, is like each episode's a funny joke. And compare that to Family Guy, where at the start it was a little different, but going now it's more like very just terrible characters. It's like who can like Peter or Lois? Chris and Meg are barely characters anymore, and Stewie and Brian aren't even really terrible anymore. They're just kind of like normal people. Compared that to the sheer amount of characters, they have a lot more characters on Archer that they've all had to give a lot more development. There's no real Meg or Chris's in there, except for side characters, but those are delivered side characters that aren't on every episode.
Yeah.
So realistically, you have just these characters that are more fleshed out. They're to a degree more realistic. It's realistic for Archer to be this messed up when you see his mom and his upbringing, and it's a lot of other ones, and it's really well thought out, and it was still going strong 5 seasons in, and I'm sure the new stuff is probably just as strong, especially if they have the same people working on it. But it's really detailed, and it helps stands out from your Family Guys, American Dad. I don't even think they have Cleveland's show anymore, huh?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that one got canceled.
Yeah, that was sad.
I'm pretty sure Bob's Burgers took the Cleveland show's place.
And that was sad because I actually thought it was better than Family Guy. Now he's back on Family Guy. Because Family Guy was good, but like I said, dropped off where all the characters either got less screen time, less development, or just became terrible incarnations, except for Brian and Stewie, were the only ones that are any entertainment value. And the other thing with Alter is that it does have this idea where it's everything is in in the show compared to like side gags or cutaways and everything. And if I would compare it to a show that I do like but is not going to be on this list, Bob's Burgers, which has the same voice actor as we said before, that show is also very funny, has really good characters, but something Alter stands out with is that it does have different scenarios. Like I said, each season has different ones. Like they go from being a super agent from a few seasons to now we don't have an agency, so let's sell coke. And also one of the people are going to be a country singer because of a chip implanted in her head now makes her a country singer. And then another time they're like the private investigators in Hollywood. And I think the newest one looks like it's a play on like Miami Vice. Okay. So it's going to be like them in Vice, and it's like they always get these different scenarios that have from this crazy plot line that are always entertaining, allows it to stay fresh with the different seasons.
Yeah.
If they're out of stuff with one resource, out of one idea, they can just change it and change characters around. Like one character to change around was Pam, who was always like the fat chick, and they friends a few seasons that. Then I guess they were out of jokes for there, so they just made her a coke addict, and the coke addict made her super skinny. So then she became Hot Pam, and they were able to get jokes off of that. And it's like so many completely funny characters. Like I said, Pam, the one who's country singer whose name I forgot, Archer, Archer's mom, of course, Krieger, who's a scientist, who is hinted at as being a Nazi, a Nazi experiment, like basically, or at least the son of a Nazi scientist. That's very alluded to it, in fact. Who also has a virtual reality Japanese anime wife.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and he's really into tentacle hentai porn. And then, of course, there's just all the other main characters and even side characters that they go off to as well, every now and again. But they all do great stuff, and like I said, it's a great amount of different types of comedy, to the dog humor stuff, to like some witty back and forth sarcasm type stuff, to this over the top scenario concepts, people acting stupid, or even like wordplay. Like there was one that stands out for they were what was it? It was like they were trapped in this dungeon on like an island filled with pirates, like modern day pirates, and I think one of them brought up the scenario. One of the, why is the name escaping me at this moment? Lana used to be in a relationship with Archer, and I think she brings up the scenario that this was like worse than that time you gave me crabs or something, and then Archer just kind of like thinks about it out loud for like a minute or so, and he's like, "Don't you mean in dungeon as crabs?" Because they're in a dungeon and in Dungeness, and it's like it's kind of the varies of humor with it, and it kind of goes, and I think it's also something to point out that it's technically presents a autistic main character, because that was actually a plot line where he was kind of finding out. I don't think he was ever goes and officially diagnoses himself, but he's just knows that he has traits of autism and stuff. But it was cool, and it's like it really shows the idea of making these characters that are terrible but are really funny and still likable in kind of like almost a Seinfeld type way, but also having the ability to put them in crazy scenarios and really over the top stuff. And it also has a very unique style where it's like 1950s, but it's also in the present time, because it will just kind of mix match styles and technology to go around, so it can hop onto like Bond-esque 50s, type flair, but also have modern technology and modern, scenarios. Like for instance, definitely Top Gun has come out in this world, because that's one of Alter's, the favorite movies, and song is of course Danger Zone. One of the best lines that come out of the show is "Danger Zone, Lana, Danger Zone." And
I can tell, I've only seen one episode, and I can tell that when it comes to that show, immediately out of episode 1, there's going to be iconic one-liners. And the one that I know the most is, "Do you want ants? Because that's how you get ants."
Yeah.
Even then, I quote that. I never continued on with the show, and I might go back and check out some more episodes to see if it's a show that I enjoy. But it has a lot of just in that first episode of "Do you want ants? Because that's how you get ants" line, where it's just completely iconic. You can tell that each and every episode, each and every season will have something like that. At least I could tell that from just episode 1.
Yeah, because that's really is something to do is like every episode. Like they never mention that again, that you want ants, this is how you get ants things. Even though that's something that's still quoted by people, it's never came back up. It was just in the first episode. And every episode they have something just like that. And the ability to make something that's so quotable. That's even something that, say, Bob's Burger, which is, another show I like a lot, or, you compare it to American Dad, Family Guy, or maybe even some others that we have on here.
Yeah.
They can have like these running one-liners going, but never in just one episode. Like you can have people talk about like Tina and butts and stuff like that. But that wasn't just established in one episode and made that much of an impact just there.
Yeah.
Like I said, the only one that is kind of a running thing is something like the Danger Zone. But beyond that, it's like every episode they have another one going like that, and it's just always great. So once again, another way I can keep it fresh, which is really important when you look at shows. Like we said, Family Guy ended up falling off in later seasons. Simpsons, of course, everyone has talked about it falling off. So it's really an important thing. Some people probably even argue that by the 5th season, the Simpsons fell off. At least not in the same capacity as they were at the beginning. But yeah, so that's just one of the topics that we want to highlight is Archer. Not only just critically acclaimed, but it's a really great show with these characters that are terrible but likable, and almost to an extent where it's like you almost feel like a terrible person because you kind of start like being part of them. But it's a really great show with these great characters, great scenarios, great comedy, even some pretty good action sequences, for when the budget allows it.
Yeah, so that was just one, and this isn't ranking it from best to worst. This is not what this is about. This is just us talking about the adult side of the cartoon world, and the 3 that has stuck with us the longest. The one for me, and I know you've seen a lot of episodes as well, and I want to go back and watch the seasons I haven't seen yet. South Park. Trey Parker and Matt Stone have been the creators of this series since its beginning, and they are still doing it to this day. There have been rumors of them wanting to leave and quit and ending the show, but there's always that something that brings them back. And each time, it always feels fresh and new, kind of like with Archer. They really are able to stick with the current times by the way they do their animation and the way they do the episodes. They can write a script.
Yeah, I still want to go back to see that documentary about them because they just put out an episode in just a week's time, and
Oh yeah.
and they had a documentary just about it, and it's like you really want to go see that just to see the process.
That sounds like a lot of fun that we can do and talk about in a future episode too. And then let's go back to season 1, where it was just basically cutouts and horrible animation, to now where the animation is actually really good, and they play with the anime tropes. They play with the religion, politics, current times, past times, any and everything they have covered. And the show is infamous for having cast members leave because they felt basically betrayed, Isaac Hayes.
Yeah.
Or having people completely want to guest star on the show, but they're like, okay, you're going to play a dog, like George Clooney.
Yeah, and I think Jay Leno was Cartman's pig.
And then a lot of times just telling A-listers no. Like, they're like, hey, I want to be on South Park. And he was like, no. They got into so much hot water, they ended up having to make a statement before an episode saying, yeah, we make fun of and talk bad about a lot of actors. We just want to say that we don't actually believe that. We don't hate anybody except Barbra Streisand. We hate Barbra Streisand. Which is like, even then in their apology, they're not really apologizing. And they have been, the creators are infamous for trying to get away with things. Whenever someone tells them you can't do that, they will find a way to do it and pass the censors, which now they are able to basically do whatever they want. Just now, they wanted to name their game, their recent game, South Park, The Fractured Butthole, actual BUTTHOLE, but I think it's Activision wouldn't allow that because it wouldn't sell good, and they had to come up with a different name. But Trey Parker does not take no very well, and he's like, I'm gonna be able to do it. So the game is called The Fractured Butthole, BUTWHOLE, and very early on in the series you can easily see that, and then later on you can still see a lot of the stuff like, oh yeah, we don't really want you to do that, and they're like, well, we're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah. It's really difficult to not go with them with the amount of cultural impact and the money they made. I mean, they
exactly,
for the most part, kept Comedy Central afloat. You can also maybe lay to the Daily Show, but it really hasn't had that much of a merchandise impact. I believe in the 90s, was it the wrestling?
No,
it was one of the documentaries that I've seen.
Okay.
Where it was like in a meeting room for the WWF, and they were talking about how they were number 2 in the country for merchandise sale right after South Park. So it was like,
and also you had, I think it was one of the shows, I don't want to get the wrestler's name wrong, but one of the wrestlers came out in one of the episodes in a Cartman shirt or a Kenny shirt. And then there's huge crossover with there.
And it was like
especially with the episode all about wrestling on South Park.
It was the oddities, but I forget which one of the oddities they had. But it was one of the guys, and they were just kind of like weirdos, freaks. That was the Outsiders thing. one of them's gimmick was he had like a stuffed Cartman, and he would just come down to the ring with that, like waving it back and forth. So it's like it has a cultural impact and even a comical impact because it really helped influence and shape, kind of like in the Simpsons. Because if you look at the Simpsons, it really shaped comedy from that later generation onward. But South Park was in that same realm.
Exactly.
And South Park actually lasted longer as being a good show. Simpsons, of course, lasted longer overall, but it's fallen off. Mostly having to do with the fact that Trey Parker and Matt Stone are still on there. And you don't really see
and it's still
Seth
their
MacFarlane.
Humor, it's still their writing.
You don't see Seth MacFarlane or Matt, what's his last name? The creator of Simpsons. You don't see the creators of those shows on the. It's like Groening. I don't really know how to pronounce it. That's kind of the problem.
Okay.
But Matt Groening.
I know he did a new show on Netflix.
Yeah, I think he worked partially on that. But it's like after they left, they couldn't really keep it up. So that was a big help to have them on there, and it's good to hear that if they do leave, that's going to be the end of the show, and they're not just going to put it off to someone else to allow the quality to slip. And another great thing about it is that it ended up really kind of advancing. Like
Matt Groening.
Okay, I knew it was something like that. It does kind of advance. Like I would argue that, what I'm trying to say, I would argue that South Park now is different from South Park when it started. Especially when he started doing seasons that had these season-long arcs.
Yeah.
In these character developments, going from one to the other. I thought that was really great. And then you also just had these plethora of great characters that you can always go to. I mean, it says something when a side character, someone's dad, is the favorite character on the show for most people.
Yeah, Randy Marsh.
I mean, you can't get better than a Randy episode.
I mean, look at. I'm gonna bring up a few of my my friends and yourself. Your favorite character overall is.
It would be Randy Marsh.
My favorite character overall is Stan Marsh. My sister's favorite character overall is Butters. And I'm pretty sure DJ's favorite character overall is Cartman. And that's 4 very different people having 4 very different favorite characters. Most of which, there's sometimes main characters don't even have an episode. And there's an entire episode that is dedicated to Timmy and Jimmy. I'm pretty sure it's called Bloods versus Crips.
Yes, that's a great episode. I don't remember who I was talking to about, but I was talking to about that exact episode.
I think it was me and my girlfriend at the time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that, and it was just a great episode. And they do great stuff where it's this great social commentary. I mean, it really helped not only shape the comedic world for the generation, but also the social, political world of the generation. To an extent, I did see, some person on Twitter was saying, like, why the generation growing up on Simpsons, Family Guy, and South Park end up being so sensitive about stuff. Those people clearly didn't watch enough South Park.
No, not at all. Let's go to the political side of the whole thing. Matt Stone, I don't know his politics, but I'm pretty sure it has been stated on record that Trey Parker is libertarian. And I think Matt Stone falls within that gap. And you can tell one of them slightly goes one way and the other one slightly goes the other way. But when it comes down to making fun of people, they go all out. They made fun of Republicans. They made fun of Democrats. They made fun of
who can't
Christians.
Who can't look over
Scientologists.
Who can't look over Al Gore? It's the Man Bear Pig. Man Bear Pig.
And then
I'm being super serial, guys.
Basically, right. And then when it came to time when Obama was president for the first time, they made an entire episode where everyone was super duper happy about it, and
or suicidal.
It turns out that he was an international jewel thief, which is definitely taking the mick out of him. And then towards the end, after Randy Marsh gets so intoxicated, loses his job, and becomes broke because of his own thing, he's like, "Oh, screw Obama! I can't believe this. He's the worst." And it played on people's expectations as well as the person himself. And then later on, I think Obama was against Mickey Mouse in an episode, and Mickey Mouse won. So it's just and let's talk about the Scientologist episode. They pulled no punches.
No.
At all.
Mm-hmm.
Mormons, they pulled no punches.
It's also good to know
all.
that for both of those, the little thing is correct in the fact that this is really what they believe in, for both Scientology and Mormons. I think some people could be surprised by that, but it just shows the fact that they literally just they really had to just put a disclaimer on there. This is what they really believe in.
Yes, indeed.
So that people know they're just not making shit up.
Yeah, and that just they use truth to be comedy and to make fun of it.
I think there was even some Scientologists that said that they left after seeing the South Park episode. because you don't actually know that when you first get in. Mm-hmm. That's like a top tier knowledge, that stuff that they put on the episode. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of people that didn't know all about that stuff, and then they heard about it, and they were like, "Oh, let me get out of this."
And then don't they overall believe in a spaghetti monster? Is that one Scientology? Or is that a different one? That's a different one?
That's a joke from atheists. They talk about the flying spaghetti monster.
And then they make fun of agnostics with Kenny being Mysterion.
And the
which is a great episode.
The Dr. Pepper.
Which flavor is it? I don't know.
Is it a cola? Is it a root beer? Nobody knows. Perfect agnostic.
And they make Christian bands where it's just normal songs, but they would just put Jesus into it. Or when it comes to atheists, they destroy them. And I'm pretty sure Matt Stone is Jewish, and Trey Parker is at least Catholic. So it's not like they are making fun of something they don't themselves believe in. The one who gets the worst of it is Kyle for being a Jew.
When it comes to anything in there, it shows the great point of what comedy is needed to be as a reflection of society.
Exactly.
I think there's just really great parts that you just have to stand back and laugh, and it allows people to, if they're willing to open up and change their opinions about things. And it shows that they can even go from, like you said, both sides of the debate. I know they've made reference to like being pro-choice, but then also other times I know they've had the episode where about stem cell research, where they had like the guy who played Superman that got paralyzed, but using stem cell research to help. He's like literally sucking the lives out of the dead babies in the episode. So they can still play on different ideas that could end up seeming countering if you just someone on the left or the right. And it's a very complex look at it, and it's really was vital and essential to the way to the development today.
And that's why it's still probably because they started in the 80s, Simpsons will always have a leg up on South Park. However, if Simpsons ever quit, ever ended, and Trey and Matt are still the spearheads on South Park and they still want to go, they can probably go up to like season 40 and be like, all right, it's time to end now, beat Simpsons, and still have the comedic genius and I'm not saying every single episode hits, and I'm not saying every single joke lands. However, 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be funny. It's gonna be good. Like, one of the best 3-parter episodes was when they were making fun of my favorite TV show, Game of Thrones. Absolutely loved it. So they're able to take what's popular, what's in the know, twist it, and make you open your eyes and be like, okay, yeah, I kind of do see how it sounds a bit off.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of those really great points when it comes to the concept of parody and
Exactly.
and good parody versus bad parody. And good parody normally comes from a place of love and respect for a medium.
Exactly.
That's a big difference from when you see something like, say, scary movies or stuff, the epic movies, those type of things, versus something like an Airplanes. That's a parody of airplane movies.
Airplane is amazing. Anything by Mel Brooks, really. Spaceballs, Mini Tights.
Spaceballs, stuff like that. Or what's some other good parodies?
I would have to say, not the newer Not Another movies, but the very first one, Not Another Teen Movie. You can definitely feel the love for teen movies in that movie.
Yeah, parody has to come from like a place of like love, and not like just hatred and bitterness of something.
Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part 2 were great.
You can go with like something like Basketball for sports parody.
Basketball was funny.
And so it's so that's kind of where South Park comes from. It instead of being something like sometimes when Family Guy does political things where it's so bitter, they don't really have the bitterness about it. I don't think they look at people who have opinions different of them as like bad people or bad guys. They just kind of look at it and just make it silly.
Exactly.
To a point where they still get their point across. They're not just kind of being down the middle. They're still trying to push their idea in that episode, but it's not as bitter and mean. It's more fun. You can compare the Family Guy doing a parody of conservatives versus South Park doing a parody of Al Gore, and see the difference there. It's not bitterness or angry. It's just nice silliness. It's pretty harmless comparison. And then they do have a great mind for the eccentricness.
Yes.
Like everything just goes extreme. It's Hillary Clinton has a bomb in her vagina. The hill dog there.
I remember that. Oh gosh.
It's
Mecha Streisand.
Mecha Streisand, of course, another legend in the first. Well, in the Stick of Truth, that's not the first game, but the first RPG basically they put out. They have you have them using Taco Bell as a cover for a space crash, and they're like, I just what do you think the green stuff was? I thought it was just their green habanero sauce. And Kaufman's like, they don't have green sauce, and the other guys were like, yeah, they do in the burritos, but I don't think they have it in individual sauce packets. No, they do. They just put it in there, and Kaufman's like, what? And of course, the great line from Stan Marsh, and it's like saying, I knew it couldn't have been Taco Bell. They're what is it? Their respect for like humanity or something is as great as their food quality is, and it's like, and even in there, I would still probably say Trey Parker and Matt Stone probably ate Taco Bell still.
Yeah,
but they can still laugh at it, the concept.
And the fact that and then.
So and even like when you compare it to like
corrupt, and using Taco Bell as the cover is silly. It is completely silly, but that's why it's so good.
Yeah, it was a good comparison when you made to Mel Brooks in that concept, because like again, most of it was not going to come from bitterness. Of course, there would be bitterness for when he does stuff that brings up Hitler and all. Of course, there.
But even then, look at Mel Brooks, a Jew. Look at how he brings up Hitler as a joke.
Yeah, a Jew and a World War II veteran at the same time.
Exactly. And then he's like, oh yeah, let's do Hitler on Ice. Something ridiculously silly. Or the producers, where the entire premise is about a Nazi.
Springtime for Hitler.
Exactly. And,
but yeah, to go back into South Park, it shows the same concept that it's not necessarily from bitterness and the understanding that the best way to talk about politics and to break it down is to make a joke about it, because that's the greatest way. Mel Brooks always said that's why he wanted to make a joke about Hitler, because it would be the greatest way to break down his aura surrounding him. And does the same thing.
And it completely defeats him too.
Yeah, and does the same thing for South Park, and of course they made fun of Hitler as well. And of course
doesn't he? And Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
Which, the movie just destroys him. But yeah, so
it goes to the key points of comedy, which is to reflect on society, kind of bring society to its sense, and that's really the core of really great high quality comedy, what great high quality comedy can do. I saw like a good breakdown of the producers and the idea of like the making Hitler into a joke, and the person, it was Lindsay Ellis, who was originally connected with, I don't know if she's still connected with Nostalgia Critic and his website after the big exodus that happened, but
trying to remember which one that is.
That's the Nostalgia chick.
I don't think
she doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't go by it anymore, so that's why I assume that.
Yeah, I think she's I think she's out of that.
But she was breaking it down to say like dramatic forms that show the negativity of, say Nazism, like American History X, or other things like that. Dramas that broke it down are also still being used by neo-Nazis as iconography and stuff, but saying no neo-Nazi uses the producers as iconography because it just sufficiently makes fun of them and breaks it down. So it shows that there is a certain skill that is involved in a certain you get something from there, and that's what South Park does really well, is that it breaks down societal norms, it makes fun of them, and it makes society really think. And that's what the big thing that really separates it from other great adult comedies.
And before we get into the next one, here's a big example. Right, the past few years, school shootings have been a massive talking point, right? South Park had the balls to make a joke, not make fun of a school shooting or people involved in it, but make a joke about societal norms of, oh drat, a school shooting. Well, were you the one who did the shooting? No. Did you get shot? No. Wait, so you failed your math test? We all have the initial of, oh my gosh, but once we realize that our kids are safe, our families are safe, it leaves the mind almost immediately. And South Park is still able to have that edgy humor and be like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe they made a joke, but then make you think, well that's actually what happens. And yeah, Randy Marsh doing that is the perfect foil for it, which makes it funny. But then after a while, it makes you think, like, oh, okay, well, we as a society does that. And that's what the genius of Matt and Trey are doing. And that's why I'm still a huge fan, and I want to go back and catch up on the episodes I've missed so far. But, yeah, let's talk about the big one. One where we both are caught up, and this one talks a lot about mental health. BoJack Horseman. Newer than the others, and already at 5 seasons, huge in pop culture. Not as big as the others, but when it comes to cartoon watchers,
I would say to a degree. I think
Mhm.
it surprisingly is still very low on the list. Like, say when we went to the Wizard
The-
World Comic Con.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I saw like one shirt from a vendor, but that was BoJack related. So it's
Mhm.
like it still isn't as commercially or well known as say a Rick and Morty.
Yeah, I think I've only saw like 3 or 4 items from the show throughout the entire floor.
Yeah.
And then I remember when we went up to the guy who wrote the 100 greatest cartoon characters.
Mhm.
They did the top 10. I went up to him and was like, "Oh, what do you think about BoJack Horseman? Would he ever be on the list?" He was like, "Maybe if he was like 7 or 8 seasons in, or if he's been there longer, he
Mhm.
definitely would have been."
Yeah, because as they were saying, he wasn't long enough to have the cultural impact.
Exactly.
But they were thinking of putting him in, and they would have definitely put him in. I think he even said
Mm-hmm.
probably top 10 in there. He was talking about. He did mention as related to Archer as well, because they say that those lines normally kind of cross over, and there is comedic level
Mm-hmm.
crossover. But though when it goes, there is a lot of love for BoJack Horseman.
Mm-hmm.
Into the extent where people who have seen it have said about how amazing it is. I believe we may have talked about it beforehand. We definitely think that it's an amazing show.
Yes.
I've seen multiple lists where it's been like the number one best show produced by Netflix. So compared,
Yeah, I can totally see that.
so people compare. I remember it was a tweet from the BoJack Horseman account where he's like, "I'm gonna save you the clicks. I'm number one." And then like the first comment under there was, "Oh wow, you really were number one." And he's like, "Yeah, I told you."
Yeah, that's
So, but it's like it was really like a number one, and it's like compared to the Stranger Things,
mm-hmm.
compared to many other Netflix shows that I'm kind of blanking on, but it was BoJack Horseman, and it is for good reasons. It was completely robbed of the Emmys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about this last season actually. I don't know that means, but I know season 4, which had what was the episode's called? The Hands on a Clock, I believe it was, the one where it shifted around from the past and present, talking about his mother's
And then
life
there were-
development.
And then, yeah, and then
And
not
it's like-
only that.
Well, I'm trying to say that season
Yeah.
I had that in there, they didn't win the Emmy for Best Animated Series. It was actually Rick and Morty, and it's like that was probably the best episode I've ever seen of any animated show.
I mean, not only that, but the second to last episode where he goes to, where it's all about his mom, and you see.
Yeah, that's what I'm
her-
talking about when it like goes into the past as well and shows her development, or
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm talking about the one
Oh.
where
when
it shows
it's just
dementia.
the present. Okay, yeah.
where it goes to the past. It's all about her from what was that? Debutante ball, all the way to present time, where it just
Yeah,
keeps
no.
going. And there are times where you see characters vividly, and other times characters are talking to her, but all you see is just squiggle lines for the face. And Hollyhock's mom, spoiler alert, I won't say who it is, but Hollyhock's mom, when you actually see her, you never actually see her face when it comes to Beatrice's memories, because she just doesn't remember. And I just thought that was so heartbreaking and so real of how if you talk to people with dementia, they're like, yeah, sometimes it's just blurs and slight memories, but things are broken. And that's what they did. And it was so impactful. And then having that last moment, that last scene where she recognizes BoJack, and she's like, "BoJack, is that you? Where are we?" And he goes, "What? You don't know?" Where he's about to crush her spirits, and then he's like, "No, this old woman has gone through so much. We're at the lake. We're doing this, we're doing that." And she just has this moment of peace, and you're just like, holy crud. That is just so heartbreaking and also really beautiful all at the same time. Not many shows has that impactful bit of writing, and the fact that season did not win an Emmy is ridiculous. I agree.
Yeah, that And the one I was talking about was the one right before that.
Yeah.
That was special alone on just like the animation scale of everything.
Is that when BoJack is rebuilding the house with the other guy?
Yeah, and
That was
like,
really good. Yeah, it was a
and
really good
there's
episode
and
too.
like he's in there at the same time the past is happening as well, and they're kind of like both walking around.
Yeah, that was also a really interesting episode of how it played with flashbacks. Something completely different.
Yeah, and it's really emotional stuff. And then
Mm-hmm.
no, it wasn't that one. That was the season before. I was thinking of another one, but that in there had some of the best episodes I've seen from a TV show, live action or cartoon or anime or anything in there, and for it to have been snubbed the way it was pretty ridiculous scenario in there.
Mm-hmm.
Especially just kind of for Rick and Morty, which is funny, but I don't think I wouldn't have put it on this list just because I don't think it really does the same as BoJack Horseman would do. Because BoJack Horseman has a lot more depth to it, which I'm not saying Rick and Morty
BoJack
doesn't,
Horseman also just feels so cinematic for being a cartoon. They really are able to play with their animation and probably one of the best looking adult animated cartoons out there.
yeah, especially for the here and now. It's one of the tops. Especially love the look where it's almost like not necessarily. It's I'm trying to think of the word, but it almost looks like it's painted where if you look at the characters, it's like partially the colors kind of not in there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a real interesting style that they have for there,
Mm-hmm.
and it is very good looking. And like we said before, well, I said before, a lot of adult cartoons aren't really looking that great. I think probably the best looking ever adult cartoon was probably one that started out for kids, and that's Samurai Jack. When it went to adult, but it's different because it started out for kids. So
Yeah.
it's a different concept of why it looks good. But it
Let's talk about the characters here. We have the spearhead, BoJack Horseman, the title character. The amount of emotional baggage he had. First off, the show is very funny, really bloody funny, and then at times it just hits you in the head with the emotional stuff, and you're just like, holy thing, Grudge. Whoa, where a character can be going on a drug bender and it's all funny and stuff, but once they're out, you're just like, ooh, maybe I don't want to do drugs ever.
Yeah, it has a real ability to hit you with an emptiness to it, to make it really feel impactful. I think with the second to last episode of the first season, where it ends with BoJack Horseman, and this spoiler technically, but ends with BoJack Horseman talking to
His ghostwriter.
yeah, his ghostwriter. I'm trying to remember her name, but
Diane Wynn.
Diane Wynn. Where it's him talking to her, and it's like, do you really think I'm a bad person? Do you really think I'm that bad? And it's like, man, that really just kind of hits hard because it seems so emotional, and then he really doesn't end up getting a response to that. It doesn't get really a great response from that in this next episode.
Yeah, next one is just like, I don't think anyone is good, really. Just like, whoa, ouch. And then Diane, and then Mr. Peanut Butter, Princess
Mr. Peanut
Caroline.
Butter, who had his a guest role in the Game of Thrones. Did you see that?
That was funny.
Yeah, that was great. If you didn't know, it was they had the art direct, or one of the artists draw up the scene of Jon Snow petting Ghost, which I guess is spoilers. That was a big moment for a lot of people. But instead of Ghost, it was actually Mr. Peanut Butter, all white. And again, the comment was, it's like all the horses in there, and you couldn't get me in.
And then Diane,
but yeah, they all have these really great character arcs. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of depth to all of these ones.
Who's the other main character again?
Todd.
Todd. Yeah,
Yeah.
Todd.
Todd has a lot to him as well, and a lot of emotional stuff. And they can do a great job at getting a lot of emotion from a short time period as well.
Mm-hmm.
You really have, like you were talking about, he was rebuilding that house with the guy. In a very short time, they make this Fly character have a really deep emotional impact.
Mm-hmm.
To where when he was having his emotional break, it really felt like something. It really felt powerful.
Yeah, you really felt for the Fly.
But they can also add great comedy to a lot of different levels. They have silly comedy, a lot of puns, a lot of
the way they
pointing
play
out
with
stuff.
the
animal-human
animals.
relationships,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, this chicken is not a people chicken. That's why you can eat this chicken, but you can't eat the people chicken. And the one where they had like the waitress being a cow bringing a steak to someone.
Here's your steak. Oh, sorry. Mm-hmm. That was funny stuff.
And I think like there's stuff in the background, like there's People O's, which is a cereal, and it's
People
like,
O's. Oh my.
yeah, and it's just like, it's just a real funny concept where they can really play on that. And even if you think, I kind of wonder how that works. There was an episode on how that works, like I said, with the whole people chicken versus not people chicken, and it's a funny episode as well. And it's funny
you
stuff.
realize just how diabolical it all is too.
And there's a lot of great depth from a lot of the characters, like Diane. A lot of shows may play her off as just kind of be the strong, always correct feminist, a woman, but she's not really like that. She makes more mistakes and is more relatable from that. It has a funny dynamic with their family about how bad they are, kind of like BoJack, but BoJack's a little more sad, I guess. Like there's her talking to her father about, hey, why don't you teach me more stuff about the Vietnamese culture? And he's like, I don't know that much. And it's like, but you teach Vietnamese studies at Harvard.
And then also,
because if you couldn't tell from the name, that they're Vietnamese descent.
Yeah, there's so much. There's just so much, and we're gonna come back to really getting specific with South Park, Archer,
and definitely BoJack.
We'll definitely try to we'll talk about a little bit more Simpsons. We'll talk more about Family Guy and all the stuff we couldn't really get to.
And to go and to try to compare it to other adult comedies, it's really difficult to do. Like I would say it's impossible because I don't think other adult comedies have made the type of emotional investment to make someone feel that way. At least not fully. Like if you go onto Twitter every time a new season is about to come out, they're like, all the people on Twitter is like, oh man, I'm 3 days away from being suicidal again, or being completely depressed.
Yeah.
Because that's just kind of what the show can do to you. And that's pretty rare. You can get some emotional points in other shows, but to get that, they do a really great job with that. And still also blending it with comedy, and not to feel like it has a tonal issue.
And then, my final point is, obviously the creators or people who worked on that show created a new show on Netflix, and you have a lot of the same animation style. This show,
because it has an entire element that I don't think any other adult comedy or adult cartoon, I should say, has had. At least not in that all the timeness. Like maybe they'll have sad episodes and emotional episodes. I think they had that. I think they had some good sad feels from that Asperger's episode, the two-parter from there, but it's not really at the same level as some of the ones from BoJack, and it's not from that same development. And it's real interesting how they still play with these characters and tweak them and give them new character developments that can make you go and rethink them overall. But like you said, we're probably gonna cover these topics in more detail.
Yes, of course we are. Because there's hopefully the goal is for us to be able to do this podcast more than just once a week, so that way we can do more episodes and talk more about everything. But until then, obviously we're going to get back to it when we can. But yeah, that's the time for the show here.
Mhm.
It was a lot of fun and a great discussion. We just talked more about the three shows overall in general and why they've become so much or far superior than the others. Because a lot of Rick and Morty seasons 1, 2, 3 loved it, and then the later seasons fizzled out. You don't really hear as much.
Do you mean something else? Because like I said, I think Rick and Morty maybe is on its third season, but
Oh, okay, then not.
say
Well,
like maybe like a
then
Family Guy, Simpsons, stuff like that.
Yeah, Family Guy and Simpsons definitely fizzled out big time. Cleveland show, like we mentioned, just was there and then disappeared. American Dad, you don't really hear about that show at all. Where Rick and Morty, Bob's Burgers, and I want to say there's one really big. Oh, King of the Hill. Those three, for the most part, or Futurama even, beloved, but didn't really get that push it needed.
Yeah.
Because
I mean-
BoJack is on Netflix. There's a good chance, because it's like probably the most popular show they've got. It'll
I would-
be able to end the way the showrunners want it to end. But I can totally see it becoming like a Futurama where it does get canceled, or it does like, all right, time to wrap it up.
Well, yeah, but they did end up coming back and ending the way they wanted to eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Just
thought,
took a while.
and that was if we were talking about like in overall Futurama and King of the Hill may have been in there. King of the Hill was one of my favorites of all times.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of started falling off as seasons started to go on, but overall they're just, since they're not around anymore, that's why they're not on this three that we're talking about as
Exactly.
three standouts.
And the reason why Family Guy
And
and
I-
Simpsons weren't is because of just how
How
bottom of the barrel it has become.
yeah, great starts. I would definitely said Futurama ended better than The Simpsons has gone. I thought Futurama actually became really. It was always good, but I think it became even better as it went on. But as we were saying, we're just talking about now, and I suppose other shows that are good, we just didn't think they were the standouts to put into the podcast.
Exactly. And then next time we talk about adult cartoons or any cartoons, it will be a lot more focused and talking about it in a more bare bones way.
We
just
wanted to ease into this topic.
Exactly. But
Uh,
next week, we've already eased into this topic, and I've wanted to talk about psychology. That's an extra tease. Next week, we're going to be talking about DC. More importantly, we're going to be talking about Batman. So, we're going to be able to get you guys some good stuff. But yeah, you ready to sign out?
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys so much for watching. It was a lot of fun for the both of us. Please give us comments down below and let us know what you think about all three of the shows we talked about and other shows, adult cartoons as well. We want to actually know what you guys are thinking. After you give us those comments, please give us those sexy, sexy likes.
And the unsexy ones.
Then go and share this video and all of our video to your friends.
And enemies.
After you do all of that, obviously you like our content, you like our stuff, then hit that subscribe button so that way you're a part of the skeleton army. And don't forget to ring that notification bell because
You want to get notified for when this podcast goes live. And you want to get notified for when any video goes up about any topic or any continuing video series they have for this YouTube or will make for this YouTube channel. And just get notified for when polls information just comes up, anything like that.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Follow me on Twitter at EasterJ_STP.
Follow me on Twitter at Liam_SWA.
And as always, until next time, it will be awesome. See you later,
Bye,
guys.
everybody.